Hello, and welcome to the Mime Radio Show. I'm Karen Hoyer.
And I'm James Donlin. We're here on the first day of winter, or at least it seems so. I'm in Ashland, Oregon, and it's getting cold today. And Karen, how's it in Chicago?
Pouring rain, but otherwise pretty nice.
Great. And then Michael Diaz, our man behind the curtain, our glue man, our production manager, our engineer, the guy with the duct tape and the blue tape that makes all this go. He's lurking back there in the darkness, maybe right behind my image right here. I'm not sure. I'll try to look around the side. Okay, I don't know. I can't see him.
So, James, who do we have as our guest today?
I'm excited. I'm really excited. Today we have Theater Movement Bazaar, one of the outstanding, I would say, ensembles worldwide. And if you haven't seen their work, I would suggest you look them up and visit their performance. So let me tell you something about them. Theater Movement Bazaar is devoted to reinterpreting theater for the 21st century. Wow. The company is dedicated to creating original performance works with an emphasis on physical action, merging elements of dance, text, cinema, and media from diverse sources into a complex performance. A heightened sense of rhythm permeates the process, visually, viscerally, emotionally, and textually. Theater Movement Bazaar investigates the elements that make up a narrative, modifying or neutralizing them, decontextualizing them from their sources. Liberated from their context, elements are free to be structured in new and surprising ways, creating a cognitive network of echoed and reverberant meanings. In this multifarious approach, the company strives to reinvigorate theater for a contemporary audience. Theater Movement Bazaar began in New York City as a collaboration between choreographer, director, performer Tina Kronitz and mechanical engineer, writer Richard Algier. In 1999, the company relocated its base to Los Angeles, presenting original works across the US, UK, China, and Russia. And with that, let's welcome Theater Movement Bazaar. They're coming through the...
Richard and Tina, we're so glad to have you here. Welcome.
Hello. Hi.
Welcome. Welcome.
Thanks.
So you have a full company, but the two of you are the founders and the ones that are like behind the scenes making things go. So do you define your roles as director, performer? What roles do you have, first of all?
Well, I would say I am co-creator of the shows with Richard.
Mm-hmm.
And I am the director and choreographer of the piece. Yeah.
So it's you're the partnership behind the entire ensemble. How many people are in the ensemble?
Well, it fluctuates.
Mm-hmm.
We have associate artists that we've worked with in the past, and then some come back. And currently we have 9 folks that we're working with. We've done a couple projects with, and so that's the current ensemble right now. Yeah.
So we like to ask, as our first question, we ask performers, what do you do to prepare? What do you say to yourself or think right before you go on stage? And I know both of you are performers, so maybe Richard, you want to start? What goes through your head right before you go on stage? How do you prepare?
Right before, the minute before you step on.
What do I do right before I go on? I guess I take a very deep breath, and I hope I remember my first line. But that's when I'm speaking. But
Yeah. And Tina, when you perform, how do you prepare to go on?
Well, it kind of depends on what the performance is. If it's non-spoken, there's a different preparation, and if it's spoken, I change that. And gosh, it's hard to answer this question because it really depends on the show itself. It almost requires a certain preparation for the particular show, and as you're rehearsing, you get into these sort of rituals you create for the particular piece. And so I have I have a number of little rituals that I do, like
For instance, like
oh, this is okay. Well, there are certain like physical exercises I like have to do to kind of get all the cricks out and all the pops and you know what I mean, all of that sort of thing. And then there's kind of the putting on of the makeup, whatever makeup is involved, and then the costume, and then making sure you can do all the moves you have to do in the costume that you're gonna do. And then there's the grounding in the feet that has to happen. I find that's really important. I have to have that connection for balance and grounding.
How do you do? Do you have like a specific exercise that you do for grounding?
Some things it depends if there's like a space to, or if I have to be quiet, I'll do certain grounding things that are in place. Sort of, like anything that you would do, like a grand plie type thing, or any kind of balancing kind of exercises, kind of slowly shifting your weight back and forth and making sure you're like really smooth, and then,
Yeah.
So now,
and then you can make noise. Then I stomp around and I do like rhythm. I do rhythm stuff to get myself ready.
you guys,
She's doing all that while I'm taking
And
a
he
breath.
just takes a breath,
then
and
but if you have the whole ensemble, does the ensemble have a group preparation that you offer to them, or you work out together so that you're all sort of in the same space?
Yes, usually, we get there early. So some people, like to do their own private warm up, but then at a certain moment, which for each show becomes known to us as the progression of the show develops. So at a certain point in time, we all come together, we do a little something, and usually it is going through like the dance and movement sequences together, so that we all are kind of in sync and touch base with each other, and we sing as well. And so there's a vocal type work that we'll do, singing to go over things, and then there's a circle where everyone sort of has their private moment together, like and each cast has their own particular thing they say in the circle, and sometimes I'm in it, sometimes I'm not, depending on how nervous I am.
so I have a question. So now you guys, I know, are a domestic unit, you're a couple. Now, in this procedure, in this ritual we're talking about now, is there a difference between the two of you? Let's say, I know you've done some shows, just the two of you, but if it's a larger ensemble, how does your energy between the two of you differ from maybe an ensemble member? Like, is that taboo to talk about, or is that could be entertaining for us to hear about?
You're nodding your head, Richard. What did you want to say?
Do you mean what's different, like when we're together as opposed to when we're behind the scenes?
Well, I'm just saying, as a couple, how, like, I know Alina and I perform together, like, and I know what that's like, and I know what's like performing with others. How is there a difference? Without airing too much dirty laundry here. I mean, what?
We don't really perform with the ensemble.
Yeah, we don't typically perform with the ensemble. So there's definitely, there's a difference, we have a familiarity that comes from being together all the time, and working on the show, and everywhere from being parked on the side of the road to in the theater. So it's like there's a strange familiarity that's there. But yeah, when there's another group, I mean, Tina's much more involved with the ensemble when we're going into a show. I'm definitely back in a way from them, and so that's one big difference.
Let me give you I'm interested in like narrowing it down to that first second before you step on stage. So, forget the other rituals. So I'm going to give you a word, and you give me your first reaction off the top of your head, like a word association. Maybe we can get a subconscious. So I'll start with Richard. First entrance.
Stand up straight.
Okay, Tina. first entrance?
Breathe.
Breathe. Great. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
Now, what
Yeah.
is that audience out there? What is like, okay, you've entered the stage. How do you perceive that force of nature in front of you that you're offering gifts to? I mean, what are they? Are they like antagonistic? Are they your children? Are they a mystical force? How do you perceive that energy out there in the house?
Wow, we miss audiences so much, don't we all right now? Oh my gosh, yeah. You know what I love about the audience is when it, I love the moment when it's quiet just before they open the house. And it's quiet and there's like this expectation in the air. And then you open the house, it's like, this great moment where everyone's like, oh, the house is open, everyone be quiet, everyone get off the stage. Like we have a big surprise. It's like a surprise birthday party.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of
Do you ever peek at the audience?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, it's, I always feel like I get really excited because it's like a game has started. And I'm like, all right, can I fool them? Can I surprise them? And, it's like, it always feels like some kind of game.
Nice. So we were talking a little bit about your partnership, your life partnership and your creative partnership. And Richard, you were talking a little bit about your role, like that Tina is with the ensemble and you're a little bit back. What actually is your role with the ensemble, with the company?
Yes, I'm typically the writer on the projects, and then I'm oftentimes involved technically as well. And so it maybe in the sound design, maybe in the lighting design, maybe in both. Sometimes just as the writer, but it's always in that kind of a capacity. Always as a writer, and always having co-created the show with Tina. We start with an idea from the very beginning and work it all the way through. And so I've been there as she's rehearsing, not all the time, but just kind of, someone as a sounding board as she keeps going.
Now, when you're performing yourself, do you find that you have a split personality, that you're listening to the sound or observing the lights with a different eye than the normal performer would be? Is that something that hangs over you when you perform, or can you let that go?
No, I can't let it go. But it somehow is all part of it for me.
Yeah.
And how, as a couple, how do you balance the work and life partnership? Tina, maybe you can tell us a little bit about like how you divide up the creative work, but then also how you spend all day working with each other and then you come home together. What's that like?
It's a difficult thing to balance. And, we find ourselves having pop-up meeting like all the time. Like it just happens, and we try to be more structured about it. Like we're gonna have a meeting at 2:00. It's like, okay, we're gonna have a meeting at 2:00. And then but then something will come up at breakfast and you got to talk about it. So do you know what I mean? But we do have scheduled meetings so that, and we try to put a time limit on it, but we don't always do that. Sometimes we'll start a meeting in the afternoon and then it's like 8:00 at night and we're like, okay, we got to stop.
Yeah. Do you have any rules or sort of family pacts that you've organized for yourselves to help smooth out the working relationship, or is that not necessary?
Well, we had a problem at the beginning.
Yeah, early on we did. Yeah, trying to find the balance. Yeah, but yeah, not really. I mean, it's an interesting question because we've been pretty fortunate in that we have sort of a different skill set, and we have we're just very different in our personalities, but yet we have a real common sense of like what we want and common sense of humor, and that sort of keeps us going through. But we're able to give each other space or leave and go, okay, that's your thing, this is my thing, whatever. And
Yeah.
not all the time, but for the most part.
Yeah.
So in working with the ensemble, is it a democracy or is it a dictatorship? Is it an ensemble that is contributing to the creativity, or do you as the writer and directors have like a real specific thing and they are the actors?
I think there's a third way or a fourth way that would be like a midwife kind of idea of certainly there's a lot of things that I know I would like to have happen, but you have to work with the people who are in front of you and understand like what they have to offer and how it's going to maybe change the initial idea that Richard and I had, and you have to leave space for that. And so I know I am, and I know Richard, you are as well, inspired by the actors that we're working with, very very much so. And people have various talents that they bring that, it's like, oh, let's use this. This is great. We have the capacity, since Richard is writing, to change a lot of the direction of a piece. But sometimes we don't. And so then it's my job to get the actors into the skin of that character,
Yeah. So
like
the
acting role. Yeah.
So the selection of company members, apart from the university situation or drama school situation, but selecting the right actors is probably a very important step in terms of, how you go about working with a group of people, right?
Yeah, a lot of we haven't had like, we're doing a show, let's have auditions.
Well,
for
it's
this
because we
particular
work with
show.
we've worked with an
Yeah.
ensemble that like you were saying earlier, some people come, some people go, but there's sort of a core that we've worked with for a long time, and we maybe build on top of that. But I, I think, when we are looking for people, we're looking for, usually people who have multiple kind of skills. Like we like people who can sing and who can move well and are good actors, so that in your auditions you ask them to play instruments, like, so we can find out if there's other things that can be incorporated into the show, and all that kind of information feeds into, all right, this is the group of people we're working with now we can use them.
But it's not like regular casting where we're casting for a particular role, because we don't know what that role looks like yet.
So is there a pretty long a process or rehearsal period where you are actually creating with developing the idea?
Richard and I worked together for a long time in the front end before any actors are involved at all, and this has probably come about because of back before the pandemic, when everybody was busy, lots of traffic, it's hard to get people together and have like a lot of rehearsal time. So rehearsal time is precious, and so a lot of it was spent in training everybody and getting the show up. We didn't have a lot of time to develop the piece with the actors involved.
Yeah.
Certain things definitely are in with the actors and on the actors and from the actors, but a lot of the work has to get done prior, so that we use every second of the rehearsal process.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like watching your pieces, I see that there's probably a very clean, well-prepared approach. We're trying to get rid of the extra things that aren't necessary. So, but also keeping that sense of the piece as a, excuse me, as a piece of clay, because it seems like what you said just now, that you can mold that and the unexpected, additive might come in there. But your work overall, to me, is very clean and very precise in a very liberated way. I think maybe that's the goal of most artists. How can you be liberated and responsive to the environment, but still be essential in your work is really essential, which I really love about it.
Yeah, you mentioned training. Do the actors that you work with have a similar background, or do you provide some sort of training to the ensemble so that they have a common vocabulary?
Yes, we definitely train together. Some of the actors that we're currently working with have gone to either Cal Arts or Los Angeles City College. And I was teaching at both of those places, and that's where we met. So they have similar training from those schools, but then also from taking classes with me.
Yeah.
And then we have other people who didn't go to either of those schools, and they have their particular training that they bring. So we have to find a common ground, like you're saying, in the training together. And that's what I try to provide, depending on what the performance is, sort of create a training that will serve the piece.
Yeah, it seems like, because you're in LA, before that you were in New York, two very diverse places. So you have the potential to have these very interesting actors participate with you from all different cultural backgrounds. But I think I have a hunch there's something in your training that is triggered in across the cultural landscape. Because most of your actors are very accomplished, if not all. And I shouldn't say most, I think they all seem so, but it seems that from such a diverse group that you've really, in your training, you've really been able to capture and push the right buttons within their own backgrounds, so.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I think the most important thing to me is to form the sense of ensemble. That's the most important thing. And that's our common ground. That's the common culture or community that we create for any show that we're doing, because that's the foundation.
Everything is influenced by something else or informed, but is there anything you can speak, like in my work, I have this series of exercises for ensemble building called the migration exercises, right? I mean, there's just something that you've used that others might know, like, viewpoints is a big thing, in a lot of drama schools, that it was derivative of modern dance, actually, right? But is there a form that you have your own vocabulary for that borrows from other disciplines, or are you off on another planet already?
Yeah. Are there any particular influences that you are tapping into?
Yeah, I would say many influences. Maybe one of the biggest, as far as ensemble goes, two major influences. I come from dance, and so dance is about training together and working together, and that sense of feeling movement together, feeling musicality together. So a lot of things like that help people to mesh.
Feeling musicality.
And I studied with the Moscow Art Theater, and their work is based on ensemble work. And there isn't any one exercise to do. It's more of a mindset. And so that any exercise you are doing, you're working towards everybody moving forward together somehow. And that can take a lot of patience, but that's really good for us to develop patience with ourselves and each other, because then we can fail, we can explore, we can do a lot of things if we trust that we all have each other's backs.
And I would say that's the same with like the technical end of it, like what Richard you're involved in, because it's the digital technical world of theater making is such a teamwork effort. It seems like your background too, you've been able to bring that kind of process to this work, in terms of not only interrelating wires and light beams, but just how people, the sound guy, the set design, how all that has to come together, the grip,
I wanted to mention what I was talking to you earlier about the two pieces that David Guerra shared with us, which is like taking your ensemble and putting it out into the virtual world so that people could connect, because I had never seen your work. I've never seen your work live, but the two productions that you did, Intermission and Celebration, during the pandemic times was such a beautiful example of how to use technology and also take advantages of these incredible actors that you're working. So I'd really like to hear more about how that came about, because I think people will have access to see that.
Yeah, how'd you guys get started? Where did these ideas first arrive? And then
Well,
coming to Karen's question.
Yeah.
Of the
the inter-
digital, okay.
Yeah, just to talk about that first.
Yeah, I guess, we had planned to work with that same group of actors on a live show, and that got cut off. And so after a few months, we decided, all right, well, let's do something virtually and safely with them. And we've been talking a lot about, during the pandemic, it's like, how can we do something that is respectful and related to the way that we like to work, but in this digital medium. And what is digital theater? Kind of like those questions. And instead of like just saying, all right, we're going to make a film now, or we're going to do a Zoom production, what is it going to be? And so we just kind of set ourselves out to kind of address the time period. And the first one is called Intermission, which was, looking at what everyone, Tina sort of came up with different prompts to say, what are you doing at home? How are you feeling at home? To really just kind of personalize it with the performers. And it was devised
with the ensemble,
yeah,
with the ensemble,
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Well, and it also ended up being a very strong connection between me watching the screen and those actors coming off the screen. That was very different from most of the, Zoom theater that I had been seeing. That audience connection was very palpable.
Yeah, what we determined, technically we wanted to do, we're adamant about this, is that it wasn't going to be just a Zoom production, that we wanted to, we basically asked the performers, can you be involved as camera people and as lighting people, and tape all of this material, feed it to us, and then we'll edit it together into something that sort of is reflective of the distance that we have between us all, but yet somehow gives us a way to kind of give it a sense of rhythm and life that we wouldn't otherwise get as we were seeing in the typical kind of like Zoom production.
Mm-hmm.
And then Celebration was just the next step in that. Then it was like, all right, let's add a narrative into it and go even further with our technical kind of work in that way.
So this beautiful mastery of time and space that Theater Movement Bazaar has, like, how did you guys as individuals and maybe as a team develop that? Like, how did you get started? I know that Richard, you're from the steppes of Fargo, North Dakota, and so forth. And Tina's from the flatlands of Florida, right? In a sense. So tell us a little bit about your backgrounds and your beginnings and how you developed this aesthetic of musicality, because your sense of time and space is beautiful. Go ahead, Tina, you first.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, coming from dance, as I mentioned, has a lot to do with the musicality.
Yeah.
And just a love of all kinds of music.
Did you start as a young girl studying dance, or tell us a little bit about the details about your
I did
history?
I started young, but I didn't really want to go. I didn't want to go, and then I think I got out of it somehow, and I was doing sports and whatnot. But then when I was about 10 years old, I was like, I want to get back to dance and seriously. And so I did. And I dedicated myself at 10 years old to really go for it. And so so that's what I was.
And that was ballet mostly, or was it modern also?
Ballet, and then I snuck over to the modern dance world. I wasn't supposed to, because you have a really strict ballet teacher that says only this.
Yeah, you could start to move around.
Right, and so I snuck over and got into a modern dance company, and my ballet teacher found out about it. I got in trouble. Anyway, I got in ballet trouble. And so, but this was, I don't know if you're familiar with Ted Shawn and
yeah, sure.
Dennis. Well, one of Ted Shawn's main dancers, Barton Mumau, was the co-artistic director of this modern dance company. So, I mean, I was really fortunate that that was the modern dance company I got into.
Yeah, you were introduced to the pioneers, to the
Yeah.
essence of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then from there, I just sort of branched out, and that's actually how I got to Mime, because at that studio in St. Petersburg, if you were in the company, you could take other classes at the school, and one of them was Mime, and so I wandered into the Mime class, and I never left. It was incredible.
And I know you performed with Mummenschan's company for quite a while. Is that true? You know, taking that mime beginnings into a professional place.
Yeah. So I mean, the group there, and it was, what was great about this mime troupe is called Mimus, that it was a group of mimes. It wasn't, people did solos and whatnot, but it was like an ensemble of mimes, and I love that, and I think that's maybe why I like working in ensembles, because that's sort of how I get introduced to everything, and it's just so much more fun.
Yeah,
I've done solos and stuff, but I love working with other people, and so that's how I got into the mime world.
Did you stay in Florida for a while, or did you move north pretty early?
I left the day after I graduated high school, and I moved to New York City, and that's I was doing mime in Florida, and a New York director was down vacationing and saw me and asked if I would come up and be in a production, and so I got on the plane and I got there.
Wow.
And so I went up and started working up there, and then but then I stayed in New York, and I ended up, going to college, and then I studied mime when I was in New York as well.
Who did you study with in mime in New York?
Moni Yakin.
Yeah, Moni. Yeah.
And
that's somebody we need to interview, actually. Okay.
He's incredible, yeah. And also there were other people. There was a protege of Stefan Mudlowski.
Yeah, the Polish.
Yeah, and there were, and I did street mime. I just
really
on the street, and I was doing mime. That was kind of my extracurricular training while I was in college. That's
what years would those have been, like that period of time?
In 1981, 82.
Yeah, that's sort of that late 70s, early 80s is the golden age of mime busking and that sort of thing. Yeah.
So Richard, tell us a little bit about where you came from, and then like how the two of you came together.
I performed when I was younger. My parents are huge it's theater people. They love theater. They've been doing it their whole lives. So I grew up around it all the time, but I didn't really necessarily want to do it. I was more interested in film, I guess, and I followed that pursuit kind of technically and writing wise, trying to do that. And then when I moved to New York, I met Tina, and I was then studying acting because I wanted to know more about it. And that's when we started working together right away. Upon getting into New York, we started doing shows together. I asked her if she would be in a play that I'd written and was directing, and she asked if I would be in a non-spoken piece that she was doing. And
were you guys in a studio together, like in an acting class?
How did you meet each other?
Well, it was at an audition we met, and so it was like during an improv for the audition, and I think I had to be an engineer and you had to be my boss. I think that was what it was. And I've been to school as an engineer, and so Tina had to pretend like she was the even higher up engineer. And
he had to tell me what engineers were supposed to act like. I had no idea. So
and neither did I, because I never became an engineer. But anyway, so we met there, and then very shortly after that started working together.
Wow.
And where were those first pieces that you did? How did you produce them, or did you get someone else to produce them?
No, there's a theater maker in New York who I'd worked with once. Arcadio Ruiz is his name, and I did a play with him at Theater for the New City, and Tina came and saw that. I was in there, and anyway, he was producing a new production, a new kind of festival he wanted to do in New York called the Festival of the Body, and he asked if I wanted to do something, and he asked if I knew someone who wanted to do something, and that's when I said, hey, maybe you'd like to do something.
Mm.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Wow.
And how long were you in New York before you moved out to LA?
Yeah, so I was there for 2 years. You were there longer, and I was there for 2 years, and then we moved out here.
What prompted you to move to LA? What was the reason for that? Was there some of that technical potential that you saw, Richard, or why come west?
Yeah, I guess we kind of felt like we were getting, it was hard to work there, kind of like getting priced out of New York. Like it was hard to find the space to work, and that was one thing we thought maybe rent. Just like it was tricky, and so we thought, well, let's try Los Angeles, and Tina knew some people there, and of course, there's opportunities for the motion picture industry there too for me as well. So let's make that shift.
Yeah.
How do you guys define what you do? Like if someone, if you're on the airplane or at a cocktail party and they say, what do you do? I mean, how do you define theater movement Bazaar?
Yeah.
I guess I used to say I was a mime back when I was a mime.
Well, that's courageous. Yeah, that's been a battle for most minds most of our lives. Is how do we talk about it?
Yeah, but now I say I'm a director.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what do you say, Richard?
I say I'm a theater artist, I guess, and usually. And
how do you, besides those beautiful words that I was trying to read in the beginning, how do you define what you do? I mean, it's a little bit indescribable, which is one of the curses of being a great artist, is because I think great art has so many influences, no matter what you're doing. And it's hard to talk about, it's like, why not just look at it or witness it or, experience it? Why talk about it? But in our packaging society, how would you define what you guys do? Like, what is Theater Movement Bazaar?
Good question. It is theater. It's theater, and it has a lot of the old ritual roots of theater done in a modern way.
I love that.
Makes sense. The music and dancing and mask, be it a real mask, which we really don't use, but there are, people put on a vocal mask or some kind of physical mask, even if it's, not a literal mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have, texts that we use, we pull from different things, and it's not a musical like an American musical, but it's not a straight play. I think that it does have it. It's like the ritual roots updated.
Well, that's great. Yeah.
Made modern, and so there's a lot of leeway in what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like with Richard, that because I've seen the visual, the backgrounds, the sets, the lighting. It seems like you're able to put in 3 dimensions, a kind of subjective form, like tech theater, or design, but you're able to put it in a space, it seems like.
Yeah, some of our most interesting sets have been outside people that we've had. I mean, it's like we're
but you know how to pick them, so that's something,
Yeah, and the great thing about the people that we have worked with, the collaborating artists, is, I mean, they have to get on board very early with, particularly with Tina saying, all right, this is the kind of space I'm going to need for this show, and the places to go. These are the kind of things that I'll need, and they just like anyone in one of our shows, it's like there are constraints that they have to deal with, and that's it's part of what's so great is to figure out how do you bring yourself through in those constraints. I mean, that's true even like with the writing. There are like constraints in the writing that happen because of our kind of productions, and I have to find a way for the voice to come out, or within those constraints, and that's part of. It's like universal to all of our shows, I think.
Yeah. One thing I found interesting is, I know you've had very lots of success in places like China and Russia, and you would say their political and social system is, the enemy of the classic American democracy, right? And yet your work has been very well received. And I know your work is very liberating. It's about freedom. Like the Blue Poker, what's the show called? Blue Poker?
Poker Night Blues.
Poker Night Blues in China, right?
Yeah.
And I watched some of that today, and I was going, wow, that's so earthy and so American, and so, the classic jazz, it's Americana, and yet it's being appreciated in a socialist communist country. So somehow you guys have been able to cut across language and cultural barriers and get to the true sense of human freedom. I found that fascinating. Do you have any thoughts on that? Have you ever wondered why the work is so well received in Russia or China, which has a totally different political system and different culture than we do?
I think one of the reasons might be the ensemble nature of it, and that then the Chinese or Russian audiences, and this even happens in the UK, they see a group of Americans, or and see the melting pot that America is, and see us working together, because I think what a lot of people see are Americans fighting on and disagreeing on the news, and so here we are working together, creating this piece of art or culture to share with others. So I think there's that. But then, like, for instance, we've also worked with Chinese actors, like in Poker Night Blues.
Yeah, I was amazed by their earthiness and the Asian cultures are so precise with their art, but they have this earth about them too when they were working. It was amazing.
I love that.
They were just fantastic, and those particular actors you saw, only 2 of them were actors, and one was a ballroom dancer, and one was a Chinese opera performer, and one was a contemporary and folk dance.
It seemed like you had some acrobats and martial artists in there.
That was Chinese opera.
Yeah.
That's part of their training. And he plays a warrior, and that's the only role he'll ever play in Chinese opera, is that one role. He's trained since he's like 10 years old, living at the school with all the other students, and that's the only role he'll ever play. And so here we were asking him to play this, first love of Blanche Dubois, and they don't even know Tennessee Williams, so we had to basically introduce them to the whole Western style of acting, and then introduce them to a TMB style of acting. So that was quite wow.
Was this like a collaboration, or they brought you there to create a piece, or how did that work?
Yeah, we there's a producer over there that we worked with, and we toured there with our shows with American actors, four different times, and done tours around China. And then at one point, he was asking us, we're talking about what about doing a show on Chinese with Chinese actors and designers too, and we of course were totally up for it, and so we presented that idea to him, and went over there and worked with them and created the show and performed it there. And they actually took it to the Edinburgh Festival too, which was fantastic for them, the whole group, to go there as well. So, yeah.
How do you, we're talking about touring now. So, I know a lot of physical theater artists, myself included, who have found that their work is more appreciated in other countries rather than the USA. And I have a hunch that your work is embraced in other countries, and in terms maybe in LA too, but in terms of middle America, it's a little more difficult for American audiences to access it. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about that, of how this beautiful art form of physical theater, movement theater, bazaar, theater movement bazaar, what's going on there, like in terms of world appreciation versus our own stateside kind of, indifference sometimes.
We don't even
A
have
big smile on Richard's face. He's going, yeah.
Yeah, it's so
it has to be diplomatic.
it's so
Yeah,
it's
just-
tricky.
it's tricky.
It's a tricky field to kind of play, to be it doesn't appear that there's sort of a network that of presenting houses that are kind of either feel that they're interested, or that their audiences, or that they can sell it to their audiences.
You're talking about USA,
in the US,
yeah,
in the US, and that's sort of how I've perceived it. I guess it's interesting, and like listening to some of your past interviews with people, and you mentioned it, like in the 70s and the early 80s, that sort of golden age of the street performance one. I mean, there was an era where in the US where and I am not a part of this, I just know of it from talking to you people about where there touring was more facilitated on a smaller level. It wasn't just I mean,
the money is no longer there. There's like a woeful state of underfunding for the arts.
It's also interesting
that really reflects in the fact that you can't tour the United States.
It's so interesting that some like Blue Man Group, they started as street performers, for example, and they're one of the groups that are kind of mainstream Americana. Like it'd be interesting to talk about like what made them acceptable, and other groups that are just as powerful or more distant to the taste of Americans. But I have a thought. So I think
this is not gonna work.
No, the elves are dancing right now. The elves are dancing, and it's time for the gift. But
it's time for the gift, but it hasn't arrived yet. So I just wanted to describe what this gift is that you're going to get eventually. It has to do with, where do you get your ideas? Where do all those ideas come from? Because it's this item from the Mime Museum. We're kind of deacquisitioning some of our extras, and it's a little jar full of all these ideas that you rejected. So I want to know where those ideas come from.
Wait. Let me just let me just get the elves in the other room. Okay, please. All right, you've delivered your gift. Okay.
Yeah,
maybe
the gift will come eventually.
Yeah, I want to ask Richard this question after this though. So I had a
save it.
Train of thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Where do your ideas come from?
Yeah. Where do your ideas come from?
Yeah. Let's see. We do a lot of adaptations. That's a big part of the work that we do, and a lot of those adaptations are Chekhov, and it's so these kind of source materials are big inspirations. When we find something that we like, we're reading Dostoevsky now. The Russians have provided a lot of material, but Chekhov in particular has been a big inspiration. We've done full-length plays of adaptations of all of his major plays, and a short story of his, and so that's kind of how the ideas generate. We find something that we like, and then we start to go, all right, would this be something we could find an interesting angle on, or there's some interesting parallels that we can kind of mix in to make it to lift it out of its original context. And
yeah, this sort of answers part of my prior question, is you're choosing pieces from the world theater, like Chekhov, or those great themes that everybody can relate with.
Yeah.
and
Um,
update it somehow. And,
what does that mean, updated? What does that mean?
Well, and we're
As
not,
opposed to the ritual, the beautiful ritual you were talking. How do you update a ritual?
well, yeah, that's like an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And I like, for instance, one of the first Chekhov pieces, full length ones we did was Seagull, and the first time we did that here in Los Angeles, the review that we got was, "Where's the furniture?"
That's
And I was
classic.
like, oh,
That's
oh,
classic.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
no.
Yeah.
But anyway, they wanted period costumes. They wanted all
Yeah.
the furniture. They, all that, and it's like, that's not what we were going for, but that's okay. But anyway, that's what I mean. Like pulling, like Richard was saying, like pulling it out of its original context, where it has to be, done in this particular style, and then we change the language. Richard changes the language.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that's so great. These pieces that you've made done like at LACC or at Cal Arts, students need to be updated. I mean, it's like you're taking the classics and you're putting them in a whole another spectrum of experience. And, I admire that LA City College and the Cal Arts had you direct pieces there, because a lot of institutions in this country won't do that. It's still that traditional. Let me ask, here's where you can fit this in. So I was thinking the USA has amazing technical capacities, in the arts, and furthermore, and Richard, you've been involved in some of those. My feeling is that that has somehow defeated the purpose of some of the arts, where other countries that are less technical and more into the style of the cafe and the communication on the sidewalk and the food, and that these, you've all traveled quite a bit, so you know what I'm talking about. But somehow this lack of technology in other places in the world have actually contributed to a richer understanding of art. I don't know how you feel about that. How do you feel about that?
I the life on the street, the exchange, the everyday exchanges of people I lived in Italy for a while, and this was all before cell phones too.
Yeah.
Now they have cell phones in Italy, and I'm sure things are different there now, but still retain the life on the street, because you have to get out of a car. You can't be in a car. You got to be on your legs, walking around, or out exchanging with people.
Yeah.
So I do think it's important, and I think we miss that a little bit here in Los Angeles with the car culture.
Yeah, things are almost too easy here in a sense, and you miss that. You're rubbing the elbows. Do you guys have any disaster stories from your touring? Any fun events?
Anytime something went really wrong?
Let's see.
Oh God, movement chants. I have lots of.
Tell us one.
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, if you're familiar with some of the really big masks that they have, they're the ones that are inflated, for instance. So I was one of the inflated. They would call them the silver bags, and these two silver bags, they come on. They're huge, like 2 stories high, full of air, and you're inside. They're manipulating this thing. And it's supposed to be kind of like a love story between these two
silver bags.
Silver bags, 2 shapes. It has this beautiful poetic story to it, and you're in there like sweating your butt off, doing all this stuff. And anyway, my silver bag, we were in Hong Kong, or no, we were in Buenos Aires, and got a hole in it. And I lost my way, because it started to, like this. And then I fell off the stage into the orchestra pit.
Wow.
Oh my.
And there was
in the silver bag. It's like
the whole silver bag and me just went clunk. And
what's the name of that? What's that dirigible that crashed way back in the century? Not the Titanic, that's a boat, but
right.
Whatever.
Yes,
Hindenburg, right.
So I went over, and then some gentlemen out of the audience. So the audience was like quiet. They didn't know like what to do. The show stopped basically. And so these two men came and got me, and they're speaking in, Spanish, Castellano, whatever. It's, and they picked me up and they put me on the edge of the stage, and they like went
Wow.
toward the, light.
Oh,
And,
Beautiful.
it was hilarious. I mean, luckily I didn't hurt myself or anything, but and then I kind of just rolled off. It looked like a piece of garbage.
Yeah, so you didn't have to try to keep the shape of the thing. You just were
Oh,
wrapped
my.
in this thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was terrible.
That's a good story.
does it has Theater Movement Bazaar had any major catastrophes?
Well, I don't know if catastrophes, but I always think of this one story you mentioned earlier when we were talking, James, about the show called Dry Cleaning that the two of us were in together. And this isn't a catastrophe by any means, but it's just interesting. The show, was so complicated. It's Orpheus and Eurydice myth, and it's the two of us, done as this 1960s spy movie. That's sort of the conceit. And it's just the two of us, and we're playing many characters. Well, actually, I'm only playing one character, and Tina's playing many characters. And I remember when the show first started, I would go off stage, and we'd have some video element playing. I'd get off stage, and I would be wondering in my mind, what's the next scene that's coming? And I would look across the stage over at Tina, and I would see her like putting on a wig for like the Money Penny character from the James Bond riff, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a scene, good, okay. And I'd adjust my hat and go on the same as I left, but it was always like she was my reference. Like, oh, what's the scene? Okay, I can see her putting on the right wig now.
There's a piece you guys do. It's called Subliminal, I think it is, about the three guys in the submarine waiting to like do something heroic to save the world, and they're waiting for orders. Yes. And then this woman drifts through, and that piece seems a little different than some of the themes of your recent work. It's not based on a classic, I don't think, and maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe it's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I don't know, but. How did that piece come about? That's a very interesting idea, especially since I'm a Pacific person who grew up around the ocean and on the sea. So
that was developed with Jeff.
Yeah, that was an adaptation of a Greek myth. So we took the Cassandra myth, and particularly her interaction with the Trojans and the Trojan horse kind of incident, and then translated it into a submarine. And that was with Jeff Webster. The two of us collaborated with him to make that show. The idea of putting something in a submarine just really was an interesting kind of like tight. It seems like whenever we do a show together, we end up being in like some confined space that it's hard to get into and out of.
Yeah, well, that's life. But this is another example, I guess, of updating the ritual. This has some classic, sources, but yet you're, playing with it and bringing it into the modern age. That's cool.
The one that I was watching was I think was based on The Godfather, books and movies.
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called Big Shot.
Yeah, with all those oranges.
The thing that I particularly really loved is that there's parts of it that look like it's going to be dance, but it's clearly mime, because it's got this aspect of not the flow of dance, but this very crisp and clean movement that was just beautiful to watch, and also like the repetition of a movement that each time is slightly different, and it gets the audience to think like, what is going on with this relationship? I can't wait till I get to see you guys live, because just seeing these little clips is like, it's like an appetizer, and I'm not exactly sure.
But
what?
It's getting hot in here.
Oh my gosh.
Put it out. Put it out. The elves are back. Put it out. Bring the water.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
It's rapid fire time.
Ah,
Rapid fire
that's what it
time.
is. Aha,
So,
you guys ready for rapid fire?
Yeah.
I
So
guess, yeah.
this is how this works. So there's two of you, which makes this easier. All right. So
Good.
this is a word association game. I have a list of things here, which I'm going to say, and you guys are going to respond if you want. Otherwise, we can talk about teaching or something like that, which we will eventually. But I'm going to say a word, and you guys, one of you can choose to do a verbal reaction off the top of your head, and one of you can do a physical reaction off the top of your head. That way, when we have our audio program and our visual program, people will still get the effect. All right. Is this clear so far? So this is like basically a word association game.
Okay.
All right. Are you game? Are you game to do this?
Okay.
Okay. One of you want to be the physical response and one be the verbal at the same time. That it doesn't have to coordinate. If it's more interesting if it's, individual. Would you like to?
Did you just point at me?
You be the, all right. Yeah.
Who's the verbal?
I'll be the verbal. Okay.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. Okay. Are you ready? So here we go.
Okay.
As quickly as you can. Spotlight.
Panic.
Hands.
All over me.
Beautiful. Eyes.
Are for looking.
Fourth wall. Fourth wall.
Break it down.
Beautiful. Sweat.
Gets in my eyeballs.
Child.
Not in this house. Hey.
She was pointing at you, Richard.
Yeah, I get that now. That's
Elder.
they exist.
Props.
We got a lot of them in our garage.
Good.
There we go.
Mask.
I'm wearing one.
So am I. Age.
Age,
Age.
57.
Neon box.
What?
Neon box.
I'd like that. Neon box.
Come on. Let's see a neon box.
Neon box.
That's Moominchance like. There you go. Yeah, good. Velvet sun. Velvet sun.
Nice.
Failure.
A good time.
Tina, I don't
That's
think.
so funny. Critic.
They're out there.
She's teacher.
Ah.
She's the teacher.
Elephant laugh.
Loud.
Fame.
Distant.
Good. Language. Come back, Tina. Come back. Language.
Humor.
Only a few more. Mime.
Is money.
Whoa. I'm gonna that's a new one. Okay. Future.
It's here.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Awesome.
That was rapid fire. That was very enjoyable. That's gonna play well. Yeah. Hey, let's talk about teaching for a minute. Because
Yeah,
I know Tina teaches a lot. My feeling is that someone in physical theater, their responsibility and part of their mission is to be a teacher, because I feel that we all learned from our mentors. We all were influenced by those that came before us. So I feel that you can't just be a performer. And plus there's a desire and a need to communicate and to pass down the art that you, and then others take it for their own and so forth. So how do you guys feel about that? Gina, let's talk with you first, because I know you've taught a really high level drama conservatories. What's your approach to teaching, and how does it fit in your life as an artist?
Yeah, I learn a lot teaching.
Yeah.
It really it puts you like right in the middle of the creative process, and getting to work with all kinds of different people at different levels and stages of their learning process is wonderful. I started when I was very young teaching.
Yeah. Why was that? I mean, I did too. Why do you think that happened for you?
Again, it was the place where I got into the modern dance company. And part of it was, that we could take any classes we wanted, but we also had to teach something. And so I had to come up with something to teach.
Yeah, you had to
right?
Think it up. Yeah.
So it was great. It was a great group of people, a bunch of hippies that I was working with. They were just awesome, great artists. And so it challenged you. And then I kept going. I think because I've always learned, like in the apprentice fashion, you know what I mean? You apprentice with somebody, you work with them for a long time, and it's a body knowledge kind of thing. It's like you have to embody the knowledge. So it takes time.
Yeah, there's a great quote by Marcel Marceau. He says, that he's supposed to have said in 1960 that an art dies for lack of creators and schools or teachers, that an art will die. So how has your teaching changed over the years? I know mine's changed quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it does keep changing.
Are you more essential? Are you more philosophical? Are you more hot-aired? You talk more than you used to, or less? Like what's going on there?
It depends. It depends. Some people need you to talk and language things. I think I taught 3 semesters of the pandemic online. And so I had to language everything, not only spoken, but also written, because we had like a platform with everything written down and stuff. So even if you made an assignment or an exercise, you had to write it out. So everything was language, which was totally foreign for me, but a good challenge that I had to.
Yeah.
Richard, Richard, do you teach?
No, I don't.
Why not? What's your feeling? Why do you go a different direction?
Yeah, I guess I'm maybe I'm kind of a jack of all trades or kind of guy, maybe, so I've never felt like I was the experienced enough to say, all right, now I can teach this. And I didn't get a lot of formal training in theater, and that's where I've ended up. So I also kind of feel like, well, I don't have I kind of don't have that practice.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I was asked to write a book when I was 27, and I remember saying, I can't write a book. I don't know anything yet. And it's true. I didn't know anything back then compared to now, so to speak. But yeah, it's
an amazing thing. It's amazing thing about teaching is that you when you get the opportunity to teach, you actually start to learn what you know, and it starts to crystallize, and become a little bit more specific for your own self as a performer or director or creator.
Yeah, it really helps you to think. I always thought they went hand in hand. I always say that to be a good teacher, you have to just communicate what you know with passion and honesty, and you'll be a good teacher. So like you're saying, maybe Richard, that you don't feel you know enough yet, not in a critical way, but I just like, I can totally understand that. That's the way I felt when I was 27. But how has age affected you guys? I mean, I'm older than you guys. I'm older than all of you guys, but Have you had to adapt, or has it informed you in a positive way? Like what, there's something beautiful about an older artist, how essential, and there's magic that happens around a older performer that's still going strong. How do you feel about that arc of aging with a physical theater artist? Right, Tina, how do you feel about
Yeah,
that?
that's you got to take care of yourself.
Mhm.
The turnaround time isn't as quick as it used to be,
Mhm.
but knock wood, I feel pretty good, and I think it's staying active is the right thing to do, and I think that then you'll just know what your limits are as you go.
Yeah, I think
You can't
that's one of
keep
the,
doing,
yeah.
the same thing you were doing, but 2 surgeries later, there's certain things maybe I shouldn't do anymore, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Richard, in terms of, like, how does technology evolve, like in terms of knowledge or just practice? How does age influence you in terms of your work?
And also your writing. How does your writing
Yeah,
change
yeah,
as you
yeah.
get older?
Yeah, I guess yeah, I think now more about, am I able to speak to a younger audience? Maybe in the past, just even 5 or 10 years, I've thought about that more consciously. I can't say that I've done anything about it.
That's interesting.
But maybe
observation.
it's in there in the back of my mind. But I just technically too, it's interesting, the idea that because our work is a lot of hybrid. It's a hybrid style, and the writing becomes a lot of hybrid too, where pulling from a lot of different sources and following different tangents to create the text. And with the age of the internet, it's kind of it's a liberating process. You don't have to have all these books or go find them. It's like it's so much is available to you that way, and I found that to be really interesting as time has moved forward.
Mhm.
What advice would you guys give to younger artists? We're talking about aging, so we're older now. How do you perceive the younger artists, and what would you say to them? And given your own life course, what do they need to know?
Well, I would say get a good collaborator. That's what I would say.
Hmm.
Do you feel fortunate in your collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's
You're the two of you are so prolific, and you've done so many different things that that's a fabulous place to be.
What about you, Tina? You're thinking very deeply there.
Well, gosh, people want such different things than when I was younger.
Huh.
I think people want different things. There's a lot more available to them,
Mm.
You can be an actor activist. You can be, you have your own podcast, your own webinars, your own, stuff on the internet. You can do sometimes, theater sometimes feels like a footnote for some people. But I think,
it's like it's a wide open world now. It's like the things were, when we were younger, there was a little more rigid perhaps in your avenue. There were maybe more touring opportunities and things like that, but now, because of media,
right,
and just the maybe frustration of being put in a box, there's so many opportunities to go in so many different directions if you put the energy and resource into it.
Yeah, I think though that I would encourage people to have patience with themselves and keep working, and keep curious, and I think that's one of the most important things for an artist, is to be curious and to develop their fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the curiosity is that's with my own kids. It's like, be curious, because that's what is going to drive you and help you find your passion. Curiosity is so important.
Oh, wow.
What Well, here's a couple of quick last questions. What is the favorite place in the world that your work has taken you to? Richard?
Well, I would say the favorite place, probably China is been the most interesting place. The most interesting experience was probably in Vladivostok, Russia. But China as a place to go, the fact that theater has brought me to these amazing cities in China, just it blows my mind, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
What about you, Tina?
China, definitely. Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that continent. I have similar feelings about China, just in what happened there, to me, What about legacy? You guys worry about that? We're talking about young people and so forth. And is there anything you want to leave on your tombstone, or just drift into the dust of the great arts?
What do you want to be remembered for?
If at all.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, I mean, I hope that, some of the experiences that we've had in the rehearsal room resonate with people and they take it into other rehearsals.
That's beautiful.
That's where the good stuff happens.
Yeah, don't you agree? I mean, I've seen some amazing things in the studio with students, for example, that the public will never see.
Yeah.
And it's just so rich, to have that in you, to experience that. Yeah.
And for the students themselves or the ensemble members, their own personal experience of discovery in those moments that they can treasure. That's another amazing thing. One last question for you. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Richard?
I want to be a singer.
Wow. Tina.
I'd like to be a really good cook.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much. This has been such a delightful conversation.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's been great.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You guys set a nice stage for this. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, guys.
It's my hope that I get to see you guys in your ensemble perform. So come tour to Chicago.
Then we can see your work too.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
We'll make an event happen. I got some ideas. I'm gonna
Okay.
Great.
So everybody out there, that was Mime Radio Show today with Theater Movement Bazaar, Tina Cronus, and Richard Alger.